Okay, we're going live. Very good. Hello, everybody. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about social media. Is social media dead? Or is social media taking over our lives? Or both? Thought we'd touch on a few of the things that are going on lately, all the new alternative or replacement platforms popping up, what's been going on, and it's just between chat platforms and social media, and I don't even use Twitter. I find that about 2/3 of my time is checking to see if I've missed something or if I'm caught up or if I got an answer to a question yet. And it's gotten to be a real pain in the neck, and it seems like anytime somebody wants to establish contact, especially clients, like I use Slack a lot. And I use Facebook Messenger as little as possible, but often end up having to use it because that's where I can reach people. I use Skype because I've had a Skype number for since they came out, like 10 years. And the Skype used to be the handy platform for everybody. And then some client comes along and says, well, I use XYZ or I use Burglebappet. And well, I don't. And I've only got 3 monitors on my desk. I don't need another little alcove filled with some other idiotic chat window. But there's a lot of aspects of social media that I like. And there's a lot of them that are becoming very, very disturbing, discouraging, tiresome. So what's everybody's thoughts?
Well, I use Facebook and I've been on Facebook for a really long time to stay, because I've moved several times, to stay in touch with all my friends and my family. Well, it has nothing to do with the business. And when marketers come and tell me they want to be my friend on Facebook, I say, you're welcome to do this, but I'm not going to share your marketing stuff, and be ready for anything in foreign languages. I don't translate, but it's just be aware, this is not my marketing platform. This is my truly social platform. I am on Instagram. For reasons totally unknown to me and without any notice, I've been kicked off of Instagram 3 times, and I don't know why. I just, nothing offensive, nothing, anything. I don't know why. And so I'm pretty wary of Instagram because who needs a platform where you're going to get kicked off for reasons unknown? I am on LinkedIn, and for some things, I find it a semi-replacement, but not a very good one for what we used to do on Google Plus when I connect with people. But I am totally annoyed by all the sales direct messages that I get.
You're in good company on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. So it isn't a very friendly platform. I had early access to Blue Sky several weeks ago, which is one of the quote Twitter alternatives. And I don't see it taking off because most of the people are in some way tech people. Theoretically, it was supposed to be for journalists. And so, and also the conversations were all about being hip in some form or another. And then they got very raunchy, and I went, I don't have time for this. So I haven't been back in a couple of weeks, but I don't see it as a thriving, growing alternative to Twitter. I'm on Mastodon, but minimally. I follow the SEO group on Mastodon, and that's it. So that's kind of my social media take. I think that, and I was a moderator for a business for, I don't know, 3 years or something that just ended last Friday. But I don't see social media as a good way to connect with clients. Let me just say that. I get clients who want to connect with me can use really old-fashioned stuff called email, or video chats. I do like video chats with clients because you can see people's reactions, and respond to them right away. But sometimes with text, it's hard to divine what somebody's really thinking. What is it? I use Telegram with one of my clients, and that works pretty well, but it is the only way that I use Telegram. I'm only there for our client stuff. That's it for me for social media.
Simon?
I'm thinking back to early days of social media, and there was Friends Reunited, the schools thing where you would find people that were in your class, and it seemed like a good idea. I joined that. I think one other person from my year in my primary school joined it, and that was it for my year in my primary school. It's up to 11. But the year after that, in school, and the many years after that, was full of people talking to each other. That annoyed me intensely. And I did meet up with some old school friends, not from that particular one, from other things. That was really useful. That was an interesting insight into how social media collapses and disappears. And I don't miss it. It was very interesting. There's nothing been like Friends Reunited since, because it was grouped into school stuff. Yes, you can probably do something similar with Facebook groups and stuff like that these days, but that was centralized around the schools, and I thought that was very interesting. So yes, we've been through that before. When I first got on the web, a bit later on, people started blogging, I started blogging, and you would have a social media presence with other people in other people's blogs, having a chat with bits and pieces. This is outside of RC and all the rest of it, bulletin boards and what have you. And there was a big blog culture for quite a few years, and to the point where you could, in Google, in the search, you could filter stuff by blogs, because they realized what were blogs and put them into one special section and everything. That was very interesting. And then that kind of disappeared because the big platforms realized how to monetize us on the internet and the data that we're providing and stuff. And hence, Twitter came along and the rest of it. And I've had a fun journey on Twitter. The first few years was quite difficult. I joined Twitter in 2007. And I had a mixed bag of people, but the last 7 years, maybe 10 years, has been very, very fruitful for me. And that's when I've really got involved with the bigger, wider SEO community. And so my group of social media people, friends on Twitter, have been a mixed bag of developers and designers in the past, and then more and more SEO people, and lots and lots of SEO people. And for that, I think most of it was just jokey stuff. I did get some work, and still do get work through social media. But that's not mainly for real clients. That's mainly as white labeling for other people. And I quite like doing that because you don't have to do the client stuff then. I'm okay with client stuff. But I prefer to work with mates and let other people deal with the client stuff. Here, I let my wife deal with the client stuff. She's very, very good. So it's certainly got a place. And I don't like LinkedIn at all. It just reminds me of 27 years in a corporate. And I see all the people that I used to work with, and I could do without that. I got a different mindset now. So I'm on there. Like most things, I'm on things. I've got a Facebook account, which I never post from. It's not my original Facebook and Instagram account. I dumped those about 7 years ago. When actually before the Cambridge Analytica stuff came out, I was unhappy about the fact that people were running games and stuff to invite their friends. And in doing so, they were grabbing your data because you'd been hooked into somebody else's game, even without you asking it. And I was like, I don't like this. I don't like the way they're grabbing that stuff. So I've got a Facebook account with my name, but a very early AI picture of somebody just made up in there, so that I can get into it for client stuff. But never do anything on that. I've joined no groups on that. So Instagram, where I used to post loads of bread photos, I ditched as well. And so really, it's just been Twitter. And of course, now I've gone on to Mastodon, which I adore and love because the range of topics that I'm getting involved in there, it's just huge. It's at the moment, it's a lovely place to be. And everybody treats each other with respect. I do know there's been some issues on there, people being called out and what have you. And of course there are. We had a couple of months ago, we had people trying to learn how to spam or everybody on Mastodon. And there were just loads and loads of accounts being made up, and you could see this, they were link builder type people just coming in trying to see what they could get out of it monetary wise. So I now vet everybody that comes into the SEO community, see if they're possibly good or not. And it's reduced it down. Since that, I think we've got about 5 real people join, and I've kicked about 5 out. So that's reduced it down. But it's the quality of the chat that goes on. I do pop into Twitter still, and I try and do SEO chat, possibly SERP chat on Thursdays. But it's just so much information now on there, although obviously with this week's issues, that got cut down to 600 tweets you can look at. And I only ever look at it in TweetDeck because I like to have my columns of stuff going on, and I can just mix up a hashtag. And that allowed me to understand what was happening, rather than just having huge amounts of feed coming through and you're trying to work out what's what. Otherwise, you do spend all your time on it. And I just want to go in, have a look at something, maybe reply on something, and jump out again and get on with the rest of my life. So it's fascinating. I've made so many very good friends, most of who I've never met, but a lot I have, going at conferences and stuff like that. Just great meeting up with people because it is. So it's been a fantastic journey, but watching Twitter fail the way it is, it's not surprising. It's never made enough money. And Elon going in there as trying to, in his very unusual way, trying to make it profitable. A very robust way of doing it. He's pissed a lot of people off. Last weekend, we saw a surge of people coming onto Mastodon again. Just tipped over 13 million people on Mastodon, which is a significant amount. And then it's just shot up from that point because of what was going on Twitter, because of the capping of 600, which then got changed to 800, which now I believe is about 1,000. And I'm going to lose TweetDeck at the start of August because that's going to be verified people only, and I'm not paying for it. I just refuse to pay for it because it's just there for chat, and I don't care. It's not part of my business. It's one of those things. So if it is part of your business and how you operate, it must be quite devastating to see what's going on at the moment. It's a worry. But people like me, old school, who like flash in the pan, we've seen it all. Everything comes and goes, everything changes. But what does surprise me, how many people are still there?
Yes.
It really is putting a frog in a pan and turning the heat up and boiling the frog. They need to step back and have a look and say, well, this is not Twitter I knew 5 years ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was never perfect, and nothing ever will be. I don't want to see it fold. I say that now. I'm enjoying it falling to pieces, but I don't want to see it fold, because that it's a natural home for a lot of very nasty people, and they can stay there as far as I'm concerned. I don't want them coming over to Mastodon and ruining it. There's my thoughts.
I like
Okay.
TweetDeck too. I just thought I'd put that in there because it's rare that I actually go to Twitter. You know,
Yeah.
go to TweetDeck, and I have author friends on Twitter. So I guess that's business oriented, kind of, sort of. And when I first started on Twitter, which was about the same time as Simon, I don't remember exactly, but I remember I was thrilled because there were all these tweets from all these news journals. Like I could follow The Economist on Twitter.
Mhm.
And so that was, I mean, and The Economist is online now, but it wasn't then. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and following the Wall Street Journal and, you know, various news sources on Twitter was one of the appeals to me when I first started on Twitter. And then I was involved in Twitter chats about screenwriting, and those were always really interesting. But I find Twitter chats frustrating for a number of different reasons. You know, the feedback isn't instant, and it's hard to keep track of the thread. And but I do, I'm with Simon. I am amazed at how many people are still there on Twitter, with all that's going on and the way that people are treated by the current Twitter environment.
Well, and I think that's, you know, my observation has been that the focus on users has shifted dramatically across a lot of platforms. LinkedIn has done it, Twitter has done it, Facebook has done it. We're the product, you know, and it's just they've stopped even trying to pretend
Pretend,
that's
yeah.
not true, you know. So now we're simply a commodity that, like you say, yeah, you get kicked off of Instagram or Facebook for an ungodly reason. I mean, I've seen some totally innocuous posts. Somebody the other day said they got bumped off their Facebook account because they had congratulated somebody on their birthday. And I thought, what in the world, you know? And
That's
I
insane.
found that a little bit disturbing because I'm known for my potatoes on birthdays.
Yes.
So I said, you know, when is one of their algorithms going to decide that potato is underclothed? Give me a lifetime ban, you know.
Naked
So,
potatoes.
and oddly enough, in my collection on my system, I do have a couple of potato images that could justify such a ban. But you know, it's just I have never been. I'm on most of these platforms. I mean, I was on MySpace, but I never got into that. It was frustrating from day one. I'm on LinkedIn for business reasons, but I'm not at all active over there. Brian Wallace did talk me into trying to get active over there, but you're one water molecule in a fire hose, and with all the spam and garbage that gets generated, I know I have built a very thick skin. If I don't know you already, you're not going to get, I'm not even going to read your message on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Unless I know your name. Okay. And even then I'm a doubting Thomas. Okay, was this thing hijacked? Is this really him? You know? And I've never been a big user of Twitter. I did use it a lot more back when TweetDeck, I liked TweetDeck desktop version.
Mhm.
I do not like the online version at all. I never did warm up much to Hootsuite, but I like TweetDeck because I could set up all these different columns and I could have a specific channel that I could watch for, whether it be news or a group of some colleagues or friends or a client or whatever. It was nice, except that I found that real quickly that I could use up all three monitors with all these columns. So, and it's a fire hose. It just goes by so quick. If you're not paying constant attention, you're never going to see a lot of these things because they just get washed aside with all the rest of the traffic. So I found that somewhat frustrating. When they did away with the desktop version, I tried the online version of TweetDeck, did not like it at all. So I just kind of stepped back from Twitter again. I'm still there. I do go in there and retweet or broadcast some stuff for a client now and then, but for the most part, I use Facebook. And for some ungodly reason, they decided that if I'm using Facebook, I'm also using Instagram. Okay, I don't care. I don't go to Instagram, unless I see something on in a Facebook thread that looks interesting and happens to be on Instagram, I might go check it out. But I use most of my Facebook use is social these days. I don't handle the social media marketing in the company, so I'll let him worry about that. And I just I have friends and family in my Facebook channels. I
Mhm.
have several pages, business pages and different pages that I occasionally drop in on. I also have a few that I probably haven't posted on in 3+ years. So, but
I killed a couple of my pages.
I haven't bothered to kill them. I just let them die on the vine.
Yeah, I just decided, I didn't, nothing happens here. I'd like post once a week or something and nothing happened. And I went, this is ridiculous. I just like, I maybe a year ago, I can't remember exactly. I just said, that's it. I'm killing these pages
Yeah.
and killed them and nothing happened.
Yeah, the world did not end, did it? Yeah,
But
it's I just
I am active on Facebook with my friends, but it has nothing to do with business,
I
So,
occasionally will post something business related on Facebook. I have an old account that I started way back when, and I now I've used Doc Sheldon. That's my public facing persona, so that's what I use for everything.
mhm.
And I've even got family members that will, well, who was this Doc? Why Doc Sheldon? Why, just shut up and answer me. But it's gotten, I guess, well, part of the reason that I kind of centered on this topic for today is because I'm seeing such an evolution in social media in general. Whether it be the political climate or the pandemic or the lack of national health service in the U.S. There's so many things that are hot buttons. The LGBT
I
crap, the
should skip
racism
all
crap,
that stuff.
the
Skip it.
misogyny. All these are very, very emotional issues, and they seem to bring out the worst in people on both sides of the fence.
Yep.
And it's kind of back in the you're either for me or against me type thing. I just find it very frustrating. I was brought up to do my own thinking and make my own decisions, not be a echo chamber. Okay, and that apparently there's an awful lot of people that never got that message from their parents that are now very active on social media because some acquaintance or icon or whatever will say something, and all of a sudden, yeah, I've always thought the world was flat. Oh yeah, the aliens did build the pyramids. Oh yeah, and it's ridiculous. I feel like I've landed in the middle of a kindergarten class sometimes. So I'm a little bit jaded about social media in general because of all the spamming. I think it's becoming much more difficult for an honest, straightforward marketing effort. Social media marketing has become much more difficult because people are much more resistant, much more wary, and the algorithms are also being much more aggressive. Uh, Now Facebook is trying real hard to make itself useless as a marketing channel. And it's just the one thing that's come out of social media in the last week that I find interesting is the pay-per-view opportunities for the Musk Zuckerberg match.
Oh.
I would pay good money to see either of them kick the shit out of the other.
Oh, yeah, that would be fun.
Well, I don't know. I think social media has always been in an evolutionary process, and it's going to. The problems pop up and opportunities pop up, and like Gary likes to say, marketers ruin everything. So these engineers at the social media platforms do need to take measures to try to control some of this stuff, and it's impossible to do it on a human level. It's probably even impossible to handle requests for review on a human level. Maybe they have a review algorithm that reviews what the other algorithm said about your post. I don't know, but the volume of stuff that they're trying to deal with is like Google. I mean, you're looking at billions of
Yeah,
tweets or
there's
billions of
there's an
Facebook posts.
evolution though. I've been thinking about this while we were talking is remember forums and AOL, whatever they were called, forum thingies, and
Yeah, and
and
ICQ.
those got bombed in every way you could think of. You go in with a forum on a particular topic and all of a sudden weird stuff will start happening. And I think one of the things that appealed to me when Facebook came was, oh, I don't have to deal with all that stuff anymore. And I can talk to the people I know. I mean, Facebook is different now than it was then, but I could talk to the people that I know. And there's a whole group of us who all used to be in San Francisco, and we're all still connected, but many like me do not live in San Francisco anymore. And so we're all able to stay connected that way. And I get to stay connected with my friends from Southern California and filmmaking group and stuff like that, people I met. So I really like that continuance, even though you're geographically located in a new place. I do like that ability to be able to connect with people and maintain those connections.
Yeah. Well, like this morning, I got a message from via Skype from a guy I was in the Navy with 40 years ago, and we've remained friends. And we contact each other, every few months, and maybe set a time to get together for a chat. That's cool. I like that. Plus, you got the family issue. But I have former colleagues that I haven't seen in 20, 25, 30 years that I'm still in contact with. Sometimes we're friends. Sometimes it's a purely professional interest. There's one guy who is a nuclear physicist that was one of my instructors at nuclear power school in the Navy that I'm still in contact with. And he's 93 years old now, but he's still sharp as a tack. And discussions with him are fascinating.
Yeah.
And he probably finds it fascinating to talk to somebody who's not thinking in terms of trigonometry, just an interest driven conversation. But we get together and chat, once or twice a year, and I haven't seen him in 40 years plus. So it's cool.
I have actually found people on Facebook, or they have found me.
Yeah.
So well, in the 80s, I was a poet in the school, and someone who was in my class at the local high school found me on Facebook, and we've been that was several years ago now, and now we converse. I mean, he's an adult and a famous poet now, and he was just a teenage kid who was a fabulous writer when I first met him. So those things I think are just wonderful, those reconnections after a lapse of time. One of the things I do like about
one of the
social
thoughts,
media, big time, and the place where where I see it happening is on Facebook.
yeah, I agree. And I find it frustrating that Facebook's algorithms so filter the people that will see my posts, and the posts that I will see from some friend I haven't interacted with much in the last 3 or 4 months suddenly disappears from my wall.
I know, I don't.
And that's frustrating. But I've been thinking about this the last couple of days. We talked in a previous show about how much AI stuff is creeping into our lives these days.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking somebody is going to come up with a way that one of us can interact with an AI and allow us to somewhat dictate how we want our wall, our threads, our interactions
Manage
to be
the
filtered.
filters. Yeah.
So instead of having Facebook decide that I don't get to hear what Simon says anymore because we haven't chatted or liked each other's posts in the last 90 days, I get to say, I always want Simon there. Or I don't ever want to see Simon there. I mean, I think that's coming, because that is a sort of an interface that would not be outlandishly difficult to do. I think the difficulty comes in at scale. How does Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever, how does the platform take the output of my interaction with their AI bot and integrate it into their massive database without it becoming prohibitively huge in terms of all the processing of all the millions of accounts that they're trying to do the same thing for? That may be the issue.
It seems like they're pretending that they're trying to help.
Well,
because I get, there'll be a post from so-and-so, right? Whose posts I see fairly regularly. And Facebook says, would you like to see more of these? I'm like, I just want to see everything from this person, whoever it might be. Don't decide whether it's more or less, but they're already showing me some of the things of the feed from that person. I always say yes if it's somebody I know, right? Of course, I want to see from this person what they're posting,
Well, I'm the same way, Sarah. But what I have noted is that if one of my friends posts something about dog training, or horse training, and I say yes, I will not necessarily see more from that friend. I will see more on horse training, okay, from a dozen different people, okay. So I've become very, very leery about that, because I don't think that their algorithm cares if I like, because I mean, actually, as I recall, the wording of the message is, would you like to see more of this type of content? It doesn't say, would you like to see more from this individual?
I haven't seen more. I haven't seen one of those. Mine says, would you like to see more, or something of these from, it doesn't say from Daryl or Linda, but it's like, do you want to see more of this person's post? So I always say yes to those.
I
haven't seen this.
That's weird. I don't get that message. Because I've been looking at it, and I specifically am not offered the opportunity to see more from that poster. I'm given the opportunity to see more of that kind of content, which I now,
No, I
unless
would
it's
never say
content,
no to that. I mean, I would never say
almost
yes
always,
to that.
unless it's something that I'm just really interested in.
I
So
decide which type of content, not you.
I
So
think that one of the things that it's easy for us to forget, though, is the fact that most of those interactions that we're offered, not necessarily of that sort, but they're not trying to provide us with a better experience. They're trying to provide their algorithm with a better opportunity to learn. Okay. They're training those algorithms, or the algorithms are training themselves. But that's the primary purpose, is to learn for the algorithm. It's not to help Sarah see more
no, it's
content.
not. It's not at all. And one of the things that I find frustrating on Facebook is, theoretically, when somebody's a friend and you type their name, it comes up and you can, stick it in there, Doc Sheldon, right? But what I find frustrating is, so I may be doing a post about Frisian horses. I just pick something, and it's like, thanks to Doc Sheldon for prompting me on this. All of that never picks up the name of that person when I'm doing that.
Yeah, it's very hit and miss, isn't it? And for instance, yesterday was my birthday, so I had a couple
Right.
hundred happy birthdays, and I tried to make it a point to like and thank each individual. Sometimes yesterday I found that there were people who I am definitely Facebook friends with, that I have been connected with for a long time, and don't necessarily have a name that, like Jim or Joe or Bob, that is terribly common. And I'll do the @ and as if it, or even if it is a common one, like
come up.
I got one. The example was yesterday. Bill Adams, wish me a happy birthday. Well, Bill is a pretty common name, so I do @ Bill, and it immediately fills my screen with a whole bunch of Bills, and he wasn't one of them. So I type in the A for Adams, and he's still not one of them. So I type in the DA, and he's still not one of them. And I type in the whole goddamn name. I even pull up on a separate tab his account to make sure how he has his name. Is it Bill Adams or is it Bill Adams? And it was precisely correct, but it didn't offer it to me.
Yeah, that happened to me the day before yesterday. I was doing something just like that.
But I can get a somebody who mentions me that I am not connected with, and if I respond in their, a comment in their post, and I do an @ rather than the reply to, I just, I type in something as a comment and then do @ it'll offer them as an opportunity to tag because I'm in their post. Okay, that kind of makes sense.
That kind of, yeah.
But when somebody is definitely a friend and has been for many years, why in the world does it offer me 37 people, most of whom I'm not connected with, by the way? Okay. Yet this individual who I am connected with is not an option.
That's exactly what happened to me when I tried to mention someone the other day. And I was like, who are these people? Just give me, the person I'm naming.
I tried to comment to somebody the other day and tag them, another Simon. Okay, in the UK.
There are no other Simons.
Well,
there's loads.
some
There's over
usurper.
560 Simon Coxes in the UK.
I tried commenting to them, and Simon Cox popped up, but they didn't, and we are connected.
It's so weird. Yeah, I don't understand that one at all. It seems like if you're connected, you should be able to just type that. I mean, I've been able to not mention my daughter. Hello, Facebook. It's just it's a glitch. I think when you want to
Possibly.
Somebody, it's very hard to mention people on Facebook.
I imagine you're probably in the people that pop up in that list are probably in the same advertising group that you're in.
Oh,
you don't know what that advertising group is.
Yeah,
Should be.
But it's other people that want to know more about horse saddles. So when you type billionaire, there's a list of bills that makes sense from my point of view, from looking from an internal point of view from Facebook.
Must make me very challenging for Facebook then, because I have a very eclectic collection of connections.
Well, type in weird potatoes and see what comes up. I bet my name's in there actually.
Just don't make it.
I haven't been on Facebook today. Doc, did you get my? I'm curious. Did you get my potato whiskey?
I did, and I responded to it.
All right. Well, I'll find it.
I commented that I think you had your priorities messed up because you mentioned potato first.
Absolutely. Okay.
I don't know. Social media, like we said earlier, it has always evolved. It always will evolve if it continues to exist. And I don't see it going away. I don't like all of the evolution I've seen, but most of what I don't like, yes, certainly there are some algorithmic issues, but most of what I don't like is the human aspect of it, or perhaps better stated, inhuman. It's just, it seems to. I remember back in the day in the United States, and I don't know if this ever was a thing in the UK, but in the United States, back in the 60s and 70s, CB radios were a big thing. Everybody had a CB radio and a pickup truck and big dual whip antennas on it, okay? And that was, all of a sudden, there was this ability to be anonymous. So you could take on an entirely different sort of personality. I met people. We used to go to what we called breaks. It would be or jamborees. You'd have hundreds or thousands of CBers would show up for a weekend in the desert or whatnot, and get together and meet people and exchange swag and that sort of thing. And I got to know some people that I had known on the air for quite some time. And I was just blown away about how different they were in person. People who were very hesitant, reticent, introverted were bodacious on the air. People who were very friendly and kind were outright assholes on the air, or vice versa.
Oh.
And I thought, oh, to me, it just, okay, it's the anonymity. Maybe somebody just feels like, I wish I had a little bit more of this characteristic, so here's my opportunity. Well, I think the same thing has happened in the social media to a great degree. There's a sense of anonymity. You can be just as big a jerk as you want to be, and what are they going to do? Reach through their monitor and punch you? And some people just take that to an unbelievable, totally unacceptable degree. But people are what they are.
I kind of trained myself to not pay attention to those things. And I think one of the things, being on Google Plus for a number of years, is I learned to just disregard all that stuff. I just absolutely disregard it. I didn't even spend the millisecond it took to have an emotional response. I go, oh, this is some rant, this is some rave. And
this is certainly the healthier approach. But then I do so many things that are unhealthy that I just see somebody who desperately needs to be slapped.
There are those.
But with Twitter, you've got this very black and white situation where you've only got a certain amount of characters, which I actually like because it's brief and it's short.
Yeah.
But that does tend to make people. It doesn't give you enough room for nuance in what you're writing in that short amount of space. And whilst I like that, it does present problems with people who maybe aren't quite as eloquent, and they just react. But my biggest problem is, and the way that Twitter's evolved, because it's got so much reach, it has so much reach over the years, we now see that the printed press literally just cutting and pasting tweets. And so your tweet, you could get pissed off with somebody and say something, they're suddenly in the national newspaper somewhere. And just because it's easy to cut and paste that rather than make it, do some proper research and journalism stories. There are good journalists out there, but there's a lot of terrible journalists who just cut and paste stuff. So it's invasive everywhere, and we're missing the nuance that other things give us. And I've certainly, the more I've stepped away from Twitter, I've noticed I've got my ability to focus on something has started to come back, because I'm now reading longer things. I used to read books like there was no tomorrow, but for the last few years, I've not read hardly any books at all. I do listen to audiobooks because it's easy while I'm cooking and stuff like that. But attention spans have definitely reduced. And when you've got something like a short form on Twitter, it's not just the fact that it's short form, you can't write that much, because if you gave it a lot longer, people just wouldn't read the long ones, they just read the short ones. It's because it is a fire hose and there is so much there. And then you go and look at websites like the Daily Mail. I will point out saying that it's based around selling advertising, and you just got a strip down the right hand side of other things to go and read, which is just all sensationalist headlines.
Right.
It's all clickbait. They just are grabbing attention away from you. And what they've done, what the internet and media have done, is shorten everybody's attention spans, so you can't focus on anything. So yeah. Push social media aside, limit yourself. It's very, very difficult to limit yourself to it.
Which leads you to wonder, okay, what are the effects on me now of this change in the way that I find and consume and absorb information? How is that going to affect me and the way I act and interact and communicate? And it does affect us. And I think we're just beginning to understand some of the effects. And we probably a few of them haven't even dawned on us yet, but we're evolving too, and we're evolving as a result of our environment. And unless you're just a total Luddite, you're spending some of your each day with some form of social media. So it is affecting. It's part of your environment, and I don't know. I don't really even have any fear. I've never given a great amount of thought, but I do think it is affecting us, at least in, critical thinking has not been nearly as common over the last couple of decades as it used to be. Now it's become more the exception than the rule.
Thinking has always been at a certain percentage level. I'm not.
Yeah, but I think it's a much lower percentage level now than it was 30, 40, 50 years ago. I personally, I don't know. It's so our environment is evolving, and it's going to cause us to evolve. And
I think it's really interesting. I'm sorry Steve isn't here, because Steve does advertising, and I'd love to hear what his thoughts are on the effectiveness or ineffectiveness of communicating on social media for advertising.
I'll have a stab at that. Okay. And I think that's a case of chasing whatever's new and sensational, because you can't keep repeating the same stuff because people get tired of it. So the only way to really advertise to people, really in any media, is to bring new stuff up all the time, and think of new ways of doing it, grabbing people's attention. That's basically advertising. You are putting a message in front of somebody who didn't really ask for it. The advantage we have with digital media is that we will put a message in front of somebody who's more likely to be receptive to it, because we know they're in that potato group, and therefore my album of potato pictures might be interesting to them, but the people in this saddle group over there, no, they're not interested at all. That compared with TV, it's just mass blast, and people are still doing that. Which brings me back to, I remember the beginning of the 2000s when personalization suddenly was the buzzword. And we were doing where I was building a commercial, financial website, they come up with this brilliant plan of everybody that signs into the website will get completely different experience considering what products they have from the bank and who they were, where they lived, etc., etc. After about 6 months of looking at it, we stepped back and said, well, this means we've got to have an enormous amount of data, which we didn't have, or any way of understanding how we would monitor that data to make sure we weren't breaking laws in showing the wrong things to people. And that was the big thing that stopped it. But now we've got even more data than ever before on everybody. Obviously it's there, but so much that nobody can filter it out to work out what should do here and there, etc., which comes back to advertising and how they try and group people, etc., etc. Maybe AI will do this, as Doc has hinted to.
It certainly has to help, no?
I'd like to think that it's not all doom and gloom.
No.
And yes, we are evolving and things, and that there are good stuff coming out of this, and I'd like to focus on that because it's all been a bit doom and gloom for the last few months. And the AI will help us, as well as, we're all critical thinking on it and be careful of it, but there's going to be situations where it is potentially helpful. There's in the Far East, somebody's produced a drug that was completely AI designed, a medical drug, and it's now going on trials. I'm not sure I would be want to try it, but
not sure I'd want to be in the test body.
I don't think I'd want to be in that test group either.
Something like that, somebody will have gone through that process and looked and see what's coming and gone, that's really good. We'd never thought of that. Let's try it. It won't be, well, the AI's bunged a pill out and it says it does this, right? Let's go and try it on somebody. They'd have tested it with humans and etc. In that respect, if you start mining all that data for good things, then good things could happen.
Well, if you go back in history, there was a time when all of a sudden newsprint was seen as a way to totally rebuild the world. All of a sudden, so much information was available to everybody. And then you had radio. Oh my God, now look at how we can spread information and raise awareness. Then we had television, okay? Well, doing the same thing. Well, at the same time, you had people saying that in newsprint, but anybody can say anything. It doesn't mean it's true. And then radio, and then television. Well, we're going through a similar process now with the internet. And yeah, there's black and there's white, there's negative and positive. And to me, it just makes good sense that if you recognize that there's both negative and positive, you want to hone your critical thinking skills so that you can figure out which is which. And no, I don't need that anymore. I'm going to put that in the closet. Not going to mess up things by thinking about it. Seems to be the more prevalent approach. But I don't know. We always have the doomsday thing with every major development, cultural development, and there's always some way or other. We always seem to survive it and put it to good use.
Doc, there's always doomsayers. They're just waiting for the next thing to doomsay about. So,
But there are also people looking for a way to, okay, let's try to filter out the bad stuff and make this end product of this new process more positive. Okay. So far, historically, short term over the last few centuries, we have managed to eventually focus more on the upside and overcome the downside. And I'm cautiously optimistic that we will continue to do that. My caution level is raising over the generations, but anyway.
But at the same time, the more you see, you realize that the majority of people in the world are kind and will help other people. Fortunately, the psychopaths are still outnumbered because if that ever swaps around, we're in trouble. But then you got the sociopaths as well. I mean, the people that just want to climb themselves up the rat race and the ladder at the expense of everybody, and now at the expense of the planet, it is a worry.
Yeah.
Yes, there are doomsayers, but now we've got to sit back and think, do you know, they might be right about something.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We're coming up at the top of the hour. And I just noticed, by the way, while you were talking, for some reason, the YouTube live stream, although it says up here in the upper left that it's live, YouTube doesn't like it. It's not.
Well, we've had a few quotes. Somebody's
That's live YouTube for me.
Of the chat, Bloodnator, can I see those X-rated photo images? And I typed back there behind Doc's paywall. And Christian Davis said, ha ha ha, I'm joining in late. Looks like I missed the fun potato discussion. And yes, dear viewers, after you've gone, we will be looking at Doc's potato images.
All properly clothed. I see the Colosseum, Italy offered the use of the Colosseum for their match. This has got to be nothing but a publicity stunt, but things are going on at Twitter here lately. The recent number of views, the changes to the number of views you're allowed if you are or are not the proud owner of a blue check, that sort of thing. Good Lord. And then his having to pay $1 billion to Google and apparently didn't. So he's scrambling to find some way to stay online. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next weeks, months, years. I don't think social media is going away. I would like to see fewer choices. It just seems like right now with 23 of us, we could probably come up with 100 different platform names that are in existence.
I forgot. See, like I forgot to mention earlier on my long list, I forgot to mention Discord is where we all chat.
Where we are, yeah. Well, I was an old ICQ user years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Managed a bunch of medical forums for Microsoft on ICQ, and I loved it. But those were scheduled processes for the most part that we would get together and have live discussions at a particular day and time. So it was very immediate, as opposed to those still existed. You could still drop in that room at any time and drop a comment, but it might be hours or days before somebody actually saw it and responded to it.
Right.
But so to me, it's kind of like a much slower Twitter. It didn't all get washed down the gully in milliseconds to become invisible to you.
Oh man!
But we'll see what happens over the next whatever period of time, because social media is changing. I don't think it's going away. I don't think we're going away. And I like your take, Simon, that for the most part, everything isn't rosy, but for the most part, the stuff that floats to the top will be good stuff, because even the negativity does, my daddy always told me everything has a consequence. And sometimes, although it appears to be a very, very bad consequence, if you look at it the right way, you can find something positive in just about anything.
Every day is a learning day.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that in the long term, things are going to thin out a little bit. There won't be 180 different social media platforms out there. They won't be all inundated with spammers. The AI will not take over the world and eliminate the human microbe, but things will get a little bit better. The AI thing is it's not even in its infancy yet. I mean, it's still just an idea that people are playing with.
Yeah.
So there's going to be an awful lot of development. And I think it's going to happen very quickly, particularly when somebody bright enough, much brighter than I, figures out a way to use AI to improve AI. And I'm sure that's already in process someplace. For some reason, I wasn't invited to the table, okay? Because I could barely spell AI, much less program it. But the thing is that, it does have the ability to bring an awful lot of positivity. So anyway, thanks guys for joining me today.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, great.